Aude Firmin is a London-based spiritual mentor, intuitive business coach, and Reiki practitioner renowned for her transformative work that bridges strategy, spirituality, and intuitive insight. With 12 years of experience in the tech industry and a pioneering approach to energy work, Aude supports soulful seekers and heart-led entrepreneurs in realigning their lives and businesses. Her holistic coaching integrates Reiki healing, spiritual guidance, and intuitive business mentorship, empowering individuals and organizations to lead with clarity, confidence, and purpose. Aude's practice blends modern leadership with soulful wisdom, creating ripples of alignment and connection for clients worldwide. Gosh, something that everybody needs in their lives right now. And I was lucky enough to talk to Aude earlier this week, where we talked a little bit more about the intimacy side of things. So today we're going to touch more on the sort of business side of things, hopefully. So welcome back.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And I love our first podcast together, and I'm so excited for the second one.
Oh, thank you. If you don't mind answering a similar question to ours last time, but could you tell us a little bit about your formative years and experiences that sort of shaped you into the person you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a background of tech. So the first part of my life was very much working for the big companies like Trainline, Gucci as a product manager. So doing their business strategies, strategy, digital, all over the world. And then I transitioned into holistic and intuitive officially 2 years ago, but I was already doing the work in Reiki, psychic, intuitive business coaching. But it was my formal coming out 2 years ago.
How did you find that people reacted to? Because I guess I always think the sort of tech industry is very, very data driven, very sort of hard headed. It's more head than heart. How did people react to you? Perhaps coming out as more spiritual with Reiki and healing and psychic abilities. How did people respond to that?
I guess they were like very curious. And, I delayed, and we were talking about it in the other podcast. I delayed my transition by maybe 6 years because I was really afraid of people judgment. Coming again, like in this very also man dominated industry, very logic and data driven, as you were saying. I was like, yeah, I'm going to come across as ridiculous if I'm talking about psychic and energy. Um, but then when finally life prompted me, and you go through so many mountain range experiences that takes you there, and I knew I was really, really done with tech. People were actually very curious. So, I work with a lot of men, and a lot of men still today have like difficulty getting in touch with their body and their emotions, their energy. But often they come to me with their challenges rather than I want a psychic reading. It's like I
Yeah.
feel you can hold space for me. And even when I was working in tech, my energy was already at play, and that's why my teams, my colleagues were calling me the people manager because I was getting there to like the KPI, smashing them, but it's like, okay, we can do it in a very conscious way, in a beautiful way. We don't have to stress each other out, and we can see which person has which strengths and reorganize the army around it. So different way of leading, we'll say.
And when you go into a business and you're going to sort of coach the business and you're going to help them with their strategy and you're going to look to move them forward and progress them, they've obviously come to you for a reason. So how do you handle that sort of first session or that first meeting? How do you get across that there's more to success than being very hard nosed and sort of stepping over people?
Yeah. I think it's in a very organic way. Again, like it's in the corporate world, people are craving for this humanity, but they don't know how to position it. And when I was working for these corporate companies, who everyone is trying their best, they are not like demonization of like corporate or whatever, but they were all talking about putting human at the center, but they didn't know how to do it, and their processes were not reflecting it. And one thing that we're often struggling with is like building the sense of trust, because it's like, okay, I trust you, we are family, and then you better you better deliver or you fired. And so it's not to say we shouldn't have success, but it's like if we really connect with like the energy and intuition while keeping the bar high, like I have a team of 7 people working for me, and I'm asking for a lot,
Mhm.
but having some elements of like rewarding the work, recognizing, and doing a bit of coaching, because I really believe that in business success, even in business entrepreneurship, 70% is about the mindset. And people are coming at work and are uh, often, I was the first one to do that, are like mirroring or projecting their wounds with their parents and their brothers. And so often they will take the boss as a dad and say like, look at me, I'm so good. So you have to deal with these things. And so looking at like the different dynamics in the company and training people in handling their energy, managing their energy, and understanding their intuition, so they can use logic, strategy, and intuition. It's not, oh, cutie dog. It's not one or the other.
So how would you define success? What does success look like in a professional context?
For me, success, and I see it through my own personal journey and the one of my clients, that it is individual or big companies or massive joint ventures all over the world. It has an aspect of sustainability.
Mhm.
What I saw again in corporate, and I wrote a book about it, but I haven't published it. It's maybe one day. Um, they look at short term,
Yeah.
often there is like the new boss, the new CEO, who needs to establish their kingdom, so they're going to fire half of the team and be like, okay, let's start from scratch. And you're like, come on, man, you have like, or women, you have all these beautiful sprouts with so much knowledge and you are cutting everything. So again, instead of tuning into the energy of the company, and not in a hoo-hoo way, like what are the strengths, what are like the points that are disconnected, you starting from scratch. And sometimes it's needed, but often I was like amazed at how much money they will use into getting rid of people, into starting from scratch, having super expensive contractors. I was one of them, by the way, and and losing so much money. And then again, like this element of trust, of cohesion, of again, like we can talk about battle, but in a conscious way, were lost. And so, in terms of competition, in the corporate markets, they wouldn't go far. It will work maybe 6 months, but then there will be a dip after like
Yeah.
the big shot. So, for me, success is like alignment with the company values at visions level, but at individual levels, treating their employees. It doesn't have to be family, because again, like work is work, personal is personal. We have to have boundaries. We can get along, but if you mix everything, it's very messy sometimes. um, and you treating employees like their clients. Employees are the first clients. They are the ones, the cheerleaders. So that's why you see like successful company like Airbnb, Uber. People are really, it's like a football team. They really love it, and having this element of intuition, taking risk, but also logic and being ambitious in the market.
Mm.
So let's.
Yeah, I always think it's sort of it's ironic, but I think most businesses would say when you ask them what's the most important part of the business, or the people. It's always about the people. But then you look at the you look for the evidence to support that, and you think, well, how are people so important? And I wondered how difficult it is for businesses when obviously we had terrible events of COVID. People worked remotely, people worked from home, some people are in the office. There's not a day when everybody's there. There's perhaps less space than before because you downsize the office. How do businesses respond to the challenge of creating I guess a good culture, whatever good means? How do businesses create culture when people perhaps aren't all sat in one room for 40 hours a week as they used to be.
Yeah, yeah. Really good question. And again, when you are on the employee and contractor side, it's so
Mhm.
easy to bitch the boss and be like, oh, like managers, they don't get it. And at the end of the day, we are all human beings, and it is
Yeah.
when you create your business and you're like, oh my god, I understand now. Um, so I think yeah, it's not a one size fit all.
Mm.
It really depends on the size of the company as well. And when you are at small size, it's much easier. You really get like the vibe of people, and that you are online or in person. You get the need and the motivation, and at the same time, we are all focused. And I see when the companies scale, then there are often these big problems because between scale up, so let's say 100, 200 people to big companies, then generally they lose the track, they lose the values. And this is where maybe there is a kind of misalignment between the message of the company saying, yes, we are all in it together, we are family, and then the processes that fall short because they don't adapt to the size. So I think it is, again, that's where intuitive business coaches are more and more valuable.
Yeah.
Because they need to get a sense of where is the company at. um, I won't quote like the name of the company I worked with, but at some point they were having difficulties because there was a side that was Italian, a side that was French, and there were like big cultural differences. Like the two teams, like football teams, were not trusting each other. And often, instead of having hours of meeting and people who were staying in their position, I will just have a coffee with one or two people, and not like in a manipulating way, but really, okay, talk to me, tell me what's going on. And then it will open the gate. Again, this is where the human, when we put human at the center for sure, for real, then people feel recognized, rewarded, and they want to work. I really believe people want to work, but it's not
Mm.
by measuring them. I mean, measure is good, but not by tracking them, by spying on them, that they will give you the best. It's by seeing you trust them and you challenge them for them to get the best of themselves.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think a lot of people, quite rightly, don't want to be micromanaged and have
Mm.
every little thing they do sort of being checked on. Because if you hire the right people, you train them in the right way, then you have to trust them, really. And if you
Yeah.
don't, it's very difficult. And this is it's a very general question, so I'm not sure if there's a general answer or not. But do you find it different working with female leaders to male leaders? Is there a natural difference between how they,
Mm.
I guess, how they see the way you work?
Yeah, absolutely. I was smiling because I got a prompt, a psychic prompt of this question. Um, I believe that, of course, there is like a feminine gender and masculine gender, and now there are so many different genders. And honestly, I lost track. With all my respect. But if we keep it simple, there are people who have more masculine energy, so driven, data, logic. You're going you'll need to adapt to them in this language, because if you are the very statistics style guide and you have the manager saying like, yeah, feel your intuition, it's like, no, like leave me alone. I just want my Excel table. Or well, if you have someone who was more like me, who can be a bit afraid of data, and you say like, okay, like this is what. So basically, you have to adapt to the person, and this is where training your psychic abilities and your intuition in a business context is super important. Not to become a psychic medium unless you want to, but to really feel how does this person communicate, and what are the energetic shifts. And in business, maybe people will call it emotional intelligence, but it's to get at even deeper level. How does what is important for this person, and again unlock this, without doing like therapy, unlock this fire for them to be like, okay, yes, I want to work for this company, I want to work for this manager. And that's all these accumulations and makes the company thrive. And one of my most one of the companies I admire the most is Patagonia. They didn't recruit for the skills; they recruited for like the mindset and the passion about nature, and the rest they will learn. So this is so important in recruitment.
It's really interesting. I mean, just on my personal experience. So when I was younger, starting off in my career, I think I probably had my first 4 or 5 bosses were female,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot, and I love the relationship. I love the dynamic. And I think as I got, I guess typically as I got more and more senior, there were just less and less women more senior than I was. So I ended up the last 3 or 4 managers were male. And I think the one thing that my team always said to me is that they liked about my approach was that I had a vulnerability.
Mm.
And vulnerability is not necessarily a word you necessarily hear much at business, but I think, and that came from the female bosses I had, was that they sort of taught the fact actually it's okay to say you don't know the answer. It's okay to ask for
Mm.
answers. It's okay to talk to people, and not have this "well, I'm the boss, what I say goes." And that, as I got more and more senior, that really really helped. I think is
Mm.
almost yes, I think I'm obviously a male. I'm quite masculine, but I think having the ability to tune into that feminine side, or what might be seen as more feminine, that vulnerability, I think really helps teams. And I'm sure that's exactly what you had. Is that your teams want to then teams want to work for you because they know you're being very honest with them. You're giving them yourself, really, not just your
Mm.
manager self. You're really telling them things about yourself and being vulnerable. And I found one of the challenges I had with that, I used to write a letter to the team each week. A very, I read some of them now, and they're very, very personal sort of things. Not necessarily about business, but about family, how I feel, about life, lots of things. And some of the other vice presidents and C-suite, the sort of the men, they were very much, oh, should he really be telling your team this? Should he be sharing so much with them? There's almost that, yeah, it was almost that barrier that they had about opening up and being vulnerable.
Mm.
Is that sort of, gosh, that was a very long statement. Is that
Mhm.
something you find?
I love it. I love it. I'm losing my voice. I absolutely love it. And this is also what I believe makes you successful in business and in life is like this beautiful balance of masculine and feminine energy, and we have both inside of us. And for me, my favorite leaders and the most inspiring leaders are the ones who are open about themselves, without like, with real authenticity.
Yeah.
And it is through vulnerabilities that we allow human connection. In my business, in podcast, I talk about the challenges I have, because also to say, guys, if I've made it, you can make it. No one is above you. It's not because you are a CEO, a founder, a director that you have your life together. Actually, there is so much more pressure. So it is important to desacralize this kind of hierarchical, society. Um, so yeah, I think it's a beautiful approach. It's a beautiful approach, and I will always encourage this. And often, again, like in business relationship, often there is some kind of emotional and energetic block between two people, and that's why they don't work together and they butt head. And you're like, okay, just have a chat, and then we
Yeah.
can go back. We can go back to business.
Yeah, I know. I always found people that I work with, whether internally or with clients or future clients, it was always much more powerful relationship when we knew something about one another, not just the
Mm,
business thing. And some people just don't want to talk about that. They don't want to have the bizarre phrase. They don't want to have what they call a small talk. It's
yeah,
business, business, business. But it's
yeah.
all the things around it that I think people understand a bit about you, and then I think, oh, that's why she's
Mm,
saying this, or that's why he's feeling this. And I think that is a big thing.
yeah.
What would you say you found the biggest challenge in becoming successful in your own business?
Mm, I think when we become a business owner and when we and ideally become successful, we have to go through all of our fears.
Mm.
So when I did the transition from tech to holistic, I went from like cold turkey, like not like having two jobs at the same time. Is I literally had the universe telling me, okay, now it's done. I was having like some interviews in tech, but my whole body was frozen, like energetic block, like I couldn't make it
Yeah.
anymore. And even I remember one of the last interviews in tech I had, I was talking about KPIs and visions and planning, and it felt like I was schizophrenically detached, two personas, and I'm like, okay, I can't do that to myself anymore. And really understanding that making money for something that is not aligned with my purpose was actually very damaging to my energy. And so I will keep using this money to heal myself. So it was not it was not really sustainable. So I had to go through the fear of scarcity, obviously, starting from scratch. Also trusting that my words will be understood, that I wouldn't be, like again, we're talking about psychic mediumship in a corporate world.
Yeah.
So that you wouldn't be burned to the stake, that you wouldn't be attacked. So all these things. Before, I used to really have, it would be very challenging for me to talk in front of an audience. I learned it through product management, but this was like super vulnerable. And again, like the question of how much do I open about these traumas of the past, the challenges. So like literally one challenge after the other, but in a good way, in a way where now, like the business, any business is up and down. It's again mountain scales. Wherever it happens to have this massive trust in life, in the universe, whatever you call it, that you are supported, you are guided, and you will get the resources you need. And the more I trusted, the more I let go of things that didn't resonate, the more like the business flourished. And yeah, in 2 months of creating my company, I was profitable. And yeah, this like it became massive. So I'm really really glad. And in addition of money, and money is great, we all need money for surviving, but it's like creating this community, finding clients and people who really resonate with your energy and where you can empower each other is like the massive win of success for me personally and in business.
Do you ever get lonely being not part of a big team and a big business, and you're going to the big Christmas party and things? Do you ever get lonely?
Oh, honestly, I hated the Christmas party. No, one, because if I drink, like the next day, I'm going to be so hangover. So I'll have one drink, but then, yeah, watching what I say as well. Um, I guess so. I have a team of 7 people, but still, yeah, I guess like the spiritual path is a lonely path sometimes because, again, at personal level, you're going through a lot, and human beings by default are going to think that they are lonely. But that's why I feel like it's super important to have communities from a personal and business perspective to say, hey, you're not going by yourself. It is a feeling, but we can support each other.
Mm.
And that you, as a teacher, as a guide, you can still be part of communities. So I guess at the beginning of my business journey, I was very much focused on the business, not necessarily taking the time to receive myself help.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I want to dive in other community and receive like sound baths and also learning from others because we all learn from each other. And of course, we need to fill up our cup.
Mm. How important is that connecting with nature to you?
Massive, massive. And I feel like the more we open up to our spirituality and therefore energy, the more we need to recharge. So in September, October, I felt like a bit of like feeling, and I was like, I need to go away. And I also felt like I was kind of stagnating in my spirituality
Mm.
because again, it's like by levels. And so I asked for a prompt. I was supposed to go to Nepal, but the trip was rearranged, and they sent. When I say they, it's like the guides, the spiritual guides. They sent me to Sedona in America, and there from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., I was hiking, going to vortexes, having incredible experiences. But yes, having this balance of nature, sunlight, and at the same time modern is very important to my energy. And I believe to everyone, and there will be less depression and anxiety if there was more hybrid way of working and living this way.
Mm. Do you, is it true that everybody has a psychic guide or more than one, but they just don't know how to access them? Or is it a particular person that has psychic guides?
No, we all have psychic guides. We can so spirit guide is basically a companion in life. We have who helps our soul evolve. So again, we go through challenges in life to learn lessons, and then we let go of this maybe false identity. We break cycles, and that's why people come to me, especially in spiritual life coaching and intuitive business coaching. But also, we have so the spirit guide can be someone that is not coming from our family. It can be even like Jesus or whatever deity you relate to, or even nature can be a spirit animal. Everyone sees them in different shape or feels them. There is no rule. It's just this inner knowing that is important. And again, people can discover it through psychic reading and psychic coaching. But we also have our ancestors. So, at the last podcast, we were talking about your dad, your mom, my dad in the spirit world. And they come up. They come up through messages, through music, through smell. And that's why I would say, even if you're skeptical, even if you are in the corporate world and you never touch on this aspect, you can still ask in your mind or in your prayer, whatever relates to you, what you need, and you will see in your life the messages appearing. But don't put a timeline of, oh, it has to be by Friday, 5 p.m. before I go with my kids in the countryside house. It's like, be open to messages. It can happen through a friend, through a podcast channel, etc. But you will receive. And this is where life becomes amazing and very easy as a business or personal aspect.
It's really interesting you say that because there was I was listening to a neuroscientist a few months ago, not on my podcast and somebody else's, and she'd lost her partner, and she said she was still able to connect with him because she would ask her partner to show certain things during the day. So it might be, like, show me, oh goodness knows, I'm trying to know what she said. Oh, show me Canada. Something quite random. He said, well, why not would you be in Canada? And she said she went out on this walk and a lorry drove past and it was like, Canada moving company. And she walked past an estate agent and they had a holiday homes in Canada, whatever. And she said everything she sort of asked for. And she said did it a few times. And I did the same. I went out for a walk a few months ago and asked, if somebody is there, can hear me, sort of show me. I think it was it was a particular type of bird. We very, very, very rarely see in this country,
Yeah.
and I saw it like 3 times on the journey. I can either explain it by saying, yeah, but I was looking for it. It was always there. I just hadn't seen it before, which is, I guess, the pseudo rational. Or I can say, well, actually, there was somebody heard me and somebody showed me that, and what's the right word? I think it scared me a little bit. I thought, oh, okay, I've asked for this. It's suddenly there. That means, oh my goodness, there is somebody in there. And then I didn't know what to do with it. So I had this almost proof that somebody was there and was able to show me these things. And then I was like, okay, now what do I do? And it was almost that's what I needed you, is to say, well, now what do I do? I've got this guy. Somebody's hearing me. Somebody's supporting me. What do I do with it now?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing I guess people need to know is, well, what do I do with it once I accept that it's there?
Yeah. I love
How do I do
it.
it?
And it reminded me, one of my best friends is Turkish, and she's very, like, very logical, and, or at least she was. And she started to see what we call angel numbers. So it's 111, 222, etc. And if you are new to it, angel numbers is basically how the guides communicates with you, and you see repetitive numbers. And if you type on Google, 111, meaning you will find the message for you, and it's really cool. So there are lots of messages, but the one who resonate with you will appear, and I love this. And she was like, "Oh, I keep seeing numbers. I'm getting crazy. How do I stop it?" And I'm like, "It's okay. It's good. It's they're saying hello, you know."
Yeah.
I was having a coffee with another friend, and the lights were twitching. So she was like, "Oh my god, is it spirits?" I'm like, "Yes, but again, they're saying they're saying hello." Um, so I would say, if you're afraid, always ask for protection. If you feel like a weird feeling, always ask for protection, because spirits is like human beings. There will be a bit of a bunch of different style, but overall, with your beautiful energy, you will attract people and spirits that match this energy. And yes, it's a fabulous word. I kept seeing like the red hibiscus this morning,
Hmm.
and this is a favorite flora of my grandma from the mother side, who is one of my closest guides as well. So I'm like, oh, she's saying hello. It's beautiful.
Did do we ever unknowingly come into contact with spirits or psychic energy that may be more negative?
I believe so, yes, because we were talking about the more darkest part of my
Yeah.
journey at the other episode, when with like suicide attempt, etc. Without scaring people, again, I believe we all match with energies,
Mhm.
and these energies can be called entities. Entities is basically energy with consciousness that comes from us or different parts. And so that's why in the Bible they are talking about the devil, the demons, etc. If you talk about energy, it's like lower energy, so where you feel like crap, depressed, etc. So obviously, when you are depressed, you're going to match more with people who are depressed, or you're going to attract like this kind of entities. And so that's why the work with like, and also we were talking about antidepressant
Mm.
at the last episode. If you feel that antidepressants are going to help you, go for it. But there is also like the work that is needed. There was a part of my life where I needed antidepressant, but it's just like a way
Mhm.
to help you. And so, how to clear like your energy is you can do some Reiki, which is energy work. You can dance, you can sing. It's all about raising your frequency, your vibration to something lighter, even swimming. So when people are like, "Oh my God, I have entities attached," it's like, well, and yeah, so just change, go into sunlight, go in nature.
Mm.
It's nothing bad. It's just we don't know that much about it.
Mm. And 100%. And I think there's a. I'm not, and this is going to sound really weird, but I'm not sure our soul or our energy or our spirit weighs something. But I certainly found one that's I had similar challenges to you in sort of suicide ideation and planning and thinking about suicide, thinking that was the only solution. And certainly at those times, everything just felt so much heavier. Not
Mm.
my physical, but just the spiritual or emotional side of things. And it just, and everything I did or felt, and I couldn't, you get to a point where you can't do anything.
Mm.
You can't do the things that are going to help you. And it's just heavier and heavier and being pulled down and pulled down and pulled down.
Mm, 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 mm.
But I think but now, so I just took my dog out for a walk this morning and been outside and it's cold and it's sunny and it's bright and
Mhm.
walk through the leaves. Everything just feels so much lighter. And I
Mm,
think there is that thing about nature, connection, talking, being around people with a positive energy that does lift you up a little bit. And it's so easy when you're in that very dark, very sad place
yeah,
to just
absolutely.
do things that make you feel drink perhaps or take drugs, whatever, they're going to make you feel worse and worse and worse rather than trying to. It's really hard trying to literally fight your way to the surface and lighten up again. But I totally agree with what you said
Yeah,
about that lightning of spirit, really.
absolutely. And it's also like not fearing our own darkness. We all have darkness and light within us. And
Mm,
spiritualists who say, "Oh, which will be all light." Well, we are the moon and the sun at the same time, and I've been in my life, I've been through a lot of darkness, not to say like pity me, but it's like it was as it was. And that's also how I'm able to transmute my own energy and the energy of people, because
yeah.
I can modulate the energy. And to say what, yes, and like we just come from the new moon in Scorpio, and so people can feel a lot of intensity, but that's also how they release. So instead of being afraid of it, being like, okay, how do I work with this energy, because it's our power.
Mm. And I think I don't know whether you agree with this, but I think to really understand and welcome and embrace
Mhm.
pleasure,
Mm,
we have to experience some pain. And I'm not saying that it needs to be suicidal or traumatic,
yeah,
terrible, terrible pain, but to feel incredible pleasure in an intimate relationship, in a friendship relationship, in a relationship with a work colleague, there has to have been some negative to the positive that you're going to experience.
absolutely. And it's a question of balance and harmony, but at the same
Balance,
time,
yeah.
going back to like the discussion of antidepressant, if you're always muted, then you feel like half dead, you know. So
Yeah,
it's like this contrast, and at the same time, people who only want intensities, and it's because they want to cover this pain. So it's like, again, it's like the question of what's the best rule for company culture is. It's a dance. It's like a feeling. It's always getting into this kind of feng shui harmony, and not being afraid of it when you are out of sync, in business or personal. Be like, okay, how do I get back into balance? What do I need,
yeah.
moment by moment?
Mm. I think one of the words that's got a bad reputation in business is the word intuition, and I think people really misunderstand what intuition is. So,
Mm,
I've worked in corporate life for sort of 30 years or whatever. So
mm,
my intuition is based on making 20,000 decisions, half of them wrong, half of them right, doing this, doing that. So my intuition isn't a sudden, oh, we'll do this. It's based on a huge amount of knowledge.
yeah.
But I think people often say, "Oh no, you're thinking too much with your heart or with your gut or with your whatever." And I
Mm,
don't think that's what intuition. I think intuition is
mm,
a combination of our life experience helping address a particular question.
mm,
It's,
mm,
it's as powerful as the Excel spreadsheet.
mm,
Uh,
yeah.
and many people, and you more than anybody else I've met before, will absolutely be able to feel what the right decision is.
Mm,
And
mm,
most people have a sort of sense of whether it's right or wrong.
mhm.
And I used to have the same even with data. I could look at a spreadsheet without really looking at it and just know it was wrong or know it was right. I'm like, that's just, I have no idea why, but that just isn't right. And the same with most situations. I think people have, yeah, people almost try and tune their intuition out. I think,
Mm.
well, that isn't a sensible way to make business decisions. Now, how do you help people maybe tune into their intuition again?
Yeah, I love what you just said, because there are so many insights to unpack. So I guess, you know, again, culturally, maybe the last, without coming across as a feminist, the last 100 years were more like masculine energy and patriarchal. So people were more favoring logic and science to say, okay, it exists. I can't see it, so it doesn't exist. And there was also like all this thing around like women, etc. But you know, it's interesting how you're defining intuition, because yes, intuition is the accumulation of experience, but there is also like this little prompt, this channeling. You know, like the musician who is going to do an improvisation is not
Mm,
necessarily, okay. There is the experience, but there is the inspiration. So you can look at inspiration as divine messages or channeling, whatever wording that makes you feel that makes you feel comfortable. So when you look at your spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, you responded to the energy, not necessarily, okay, it looks like this number is off. You didn't even look at it, so
mm,
you felt the energy. Same when you meet a colleague and you have to do a recruitment, and you're like, okay, this guy is great, but I feel like it's not going to match the team. I can't explain it. And I love to say, like, the biggest entrepreneur, most successful people, and doesn't mean I resonate with their values, but Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, etc., are guys who are following their intuition big time, and
yeah.
also their ability to test. And you know this in tech: test and fail, to in order to get the right recipe. Because I feel like people are so attached to their ego and wanting to be right and not being judged on a wrong decision, they avoid testing and trying. and also they follow logic while the cycles is repeating itself, and it's bad. And this is how you see massive tech companies or fashion industries, etc., who goes down completely because they're just repeating the same cycle. So to your question, how do I help people reconnect to their intuition? Is first to see they have the prompt, but all the messages of like, oh no, it's my imagination, oh I'm not sure, we put it on the side. So it's creating space. And they don't need to be good at meditation. It's just not doubting themselves.
Mm.
And how we can do this is like helping them to for example to read my energy. They don't know anything about me, and then I will confirm or say, okay, this resonates, this is maybe out of track. But what I can tell you is the first psychic reading of people ever, 70% are correct. So it shows you it is our native ability, but it is something that society has put on the side, again with masculine energy, but also in a way for people to not be connected to their own power, because intuitive people knows how to navigate, and then it's more difficult to control it in some way.
100%, and I completely believe that it's something that children absolutely have, and society almost beats it out of them in a way. Because if you look at how children play and how they interact with one another, how they'll go to a playground and they'll come over and say, "Oh, can Johnny come over for afternoon tea? Is my friend?
Mm.
You just met him like 2 seconds ago." No, but and they play, but we don't necessarily do. We don't do that. You know, we somehow self limit. But I think as children, you give a child a big canvas piece of paper, they will cover it with color and things. And if you give somebody, a huge canvas and a pen, they might draw something quite small in the middle, and they're scared to go outside. But children don't. They color outside the lines and don't see
Mm.
anything wrong with that. They really go for it.
Yeah.
And you've got to go in a second. So just one last question, and
Yeah, please, please.
it's definitely the biggest one. What what are your thoughts or hopes for society in general? So on a sort of planetary level, where do you think where are we going?
I love this question. Mm, my hope, and I also see it unfold, so I'm not worried about it, is for human beings to remember who they are, as like I'll try not to say it in a too hoo-hoo way, but as energetic being who can create whatever they see AI potentially do, they can do it themselves. That they see that they were not, internally they were not predisposed for war, and so if they reconnect to their energetic, their spirituality in their own way, it doesn't have to be whatever way, but we are spiritual beings in having a human experience. Reconnect to their spirituality, their intuition, then we are all love, and I know it's like we heard it so many times, like, oh my god, I'm going to throw up just saying that, but we are this pure love energy. And so when people reconnect to this, they are free of control, they are free of creating their own miracles in their life. And so that's why, we were talking about my journey, like getting 2 months profitable and creating so much, is because I know how to manage my energy and my intuition. It's as simple as this. And people have the ability, they have all this ancient knowledge they can access. They don't need external teachers, they need to remove this conditioning. And this is creating this heaven on earth without being like fluffy white, fluffy pink rabbits. So I see this shift of consciousness happening, people awakening to their own purpose, creating communities more like connected to nature, understanding what is sustainable from a business and personal perspective, and also even questioning and having this relationship with like cosmic civilization. And this is again another chapter, but it's as above so below. And yes, if we put aside what we hear in the mass media, there is actually beautiful things that are happening at play. So, and people psychic abilities are awakening very, very, very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me again. We should just do this like every week.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
have a weekly just conversation. You're amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll put lots of links into the notes so people can find you and reach out to you and explore their own journey with you because it absolutely would be worth it. But thank you and have an amazing weekend.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and amazing questions. It was beautiful to talk with you.